Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fandomology, where fandoms collide. And welcome back to our second beginner series of this week. That's right, you're getting a double dose of beginner series this week. And this is a very special one. This is one that was requested, and we're going to be talking about the series R.W.B.Y. And to help me talk about the series R.W.B.Y., making his debut for the first time ever streamed on YouTube, I would like to welcome the member of TDK that you guys have not heard before, Mr. Kobe Allen.
Good evening, Fandomology.
I love it. All right, so tonight, of course, we're talking about R.W.B.Y., or as I mistakenly called it, R.W.B.Y.
It's just a team name, man. It's not like the S.H.I.E.L.D. organization from Marvel, dude.
Understandable. So I guess my first question, Kobe, is what made you want to come and talk about R.W.B.Y. here on stream tonight?
Well, for a while, I listened to your streams about like the open panel discussions, like what makes a good villain, what makes a good battle scene, all that, and then with the beginner series, like with what you did with Trev with Mortal Kombat, Metroid, and Kirby and such, I honestly felt like I wanted to try something new and get out of my comfort zone a bit because I mostly stick to writing and all that. And so I'm not exactly well known heard, if that makes sense. So for
Of
this
course.
time, I want to vocalize something that I happen to be an expert in on the side next to my superhero passion.
Absolutely. Real quick, Virginia has popped into the chat saying, "Go, Kobe, you've got this."
Thanks, Virginia.
And we're going to go ahead and get this right out of the way just from the outset. Trevor, if you're watching, this is for you.
Delicious whoopers, the cutest of all.
Hey y'all, prepare yourself for the Wooper Man. Man, you never heard a sound like the Wooper Man. Yeah.
Did you make that up yourself? I love that.
Well, it's a parody of my favorite song from Avengers Infinity War, Rubber Band Man. And hi, Chris. Thank you for joining us.
All right, so focusing now on R.W.B.Y. So as always, beginner series is about bringing people's attention to whatever it is that we're talking about that may not have heard about it before. And R.W.B.Y. is definitely one that I'm certainly coming into fresh. So with that in mind, the question I always start out with any beginner series is, how did you first hear about R.W.B.Y., Kobe?
Well, I heard about R.W.B.Y. when I was in high school in my junior year, and by that time, Death Battle has already garnered my interest with their idea of putting fictional characters in battle one-on-one, and they actually analyze their fights to see who would win the fight. Now, one of the fights that came out that year was, of course, featuring one of the characters that we'll discuss later in there, and I think it was around the same time, like it went around its third season, I think, that they did this fight, and immediately it just interested me in a way because the concept of the show itself is unique in a way, but also kind of a homage to something that we all hold dear, or like in literature or that kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, after that, I checked it out. I'd say pretty much in in college. So yeah, and thanks, Trev, for complimenting me and how good I'm doing.
Also, Trevor.
Oh, Paul, you sweet talker, you.
Yes, that is true. Although usually that's reserved for Virginia.
That's what she said.
Kobe, you're fitting in right already.
Thank you.
So I didn't mean to get you off track there. So you heard about it in college through Death Battle. Is that correct?
Well, I heard about R.W.B.Y. in high school. I just didn't get into R.W.B.Y. per se till around my college years, and by that time, I think R.W.B.Y. was in its sixth season. I think, and I was getting used to the whole plot of it all.
Okay. All right. So what would you say sums up R.W.B.Y. in a nutshell? Like, what is R.W.B.Y.?
Well, Ruby is a web series that basically touches on the cliche of a high school dedicated to training the future warriors to fight evil and protect the world, which in this case are creatures of the Grimm, which are basically these black symbiotic creatures that resemble animals like wolves, bears, boars, oh my. And later in the volumes, we get Grim that basically look like creatures of mythology, like manticores. There's Nuclevi, I think.
Okay. So it sounds a little bit, just by that description right there, like a mix of My Hero Academia mixed with a little bit of Kingdom Hearts. Would you say that's accurate?
I'd say that's fairly accurate. Which, by the way, if you do want me to talk about My Hero Academia on another or beginner series, I'd be willing to step in for that one.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that once tonight's done.
I mean, not that it's gonna be changing the subject or anything, but just like next time, like we can plan for that. Like,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I have some different headers here. Actually, hold on. Were you finished talking about how you had heard about it, or how what it is in a nutshell? Because I didn't intend to interrupt you.
oh no, you're fine. I mean, I think I finished the nutshell apart. I just didn't mention what character from Ruby introduced me to the show because we'll be discussing about her later.
Okay, fair enough. So I've got some different bullet points here, along with the character pictures to bring up. And let's talk first, as always, about the story. So, where does the story start? And real quick, before you answer this, I am going to go ahead and play this clip just to cover us.
Well, as far as the story goes, and I'll try to keep it majorly spoil free because I don't want to spoil anything major, like that kind of thing, like character deaths or anything like that.
Mhm.
But the general story is that it takes place on a world similar to our own, except it's basically taking inspiration from the Brothers Grimm fairy tales and all that. And the fact of the matter is that the world is basically caught in a conflict between humanity, the Faunus, and the Grimm.
Okay.
And it goes on a war for so long that eventually the world of Remnant, as it's called, is split into four kingdoms. Well, technically there's five, but four are only named officially.
Okay.
Now, one of the kingdoms is Atlas, which is basically described as, quote, the America of Remnant, unquote. And it's basically the technologically advanced, the metropolis, it's like city that's basically full of all that stuff. I'm sorry, I could have been
It's
better on that description.
it's all right, man.
And then you got the kingdom of Mistral, which is basically a kingdom that's based entirely on the Roman Empire or Greece, that kind of thing. It's basically a little low tech, just not too high tech like Atlas is.
Okay.
And then you got, excuse me, and then you got the kingdom of Vale, which is similar to Mistral, except it's more based on European and Middle Eastern geography and that kind of thing. And it's kind of like a standard town you'd see like in England or London or just anywhere that has a small city.
Okay.
And then with Vacuo, it's basically an oasis is in the deserts. That's pretty much it. It's based on Egyptian structures and all that.
Okay. So like the Arabic part of the world.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the fifth one I didn't mention was named officially is called Menagerie, and that's basically the island where all the faunus are gathered. Because, for context wise, the population of Remnant is split into two factions. You got the humans in there, obviously, and then you have the faunus. The faunus are basically the same as humans, except the obvious indicators that they have animal like features on them, like ears,
Oh,
tails, wings,
okay.
that kind of thing.
Okay.
One of them will actually be discussed. Well, actually, two particular faunus will be discussed later when we get to the characters.
Right.
And as far as the characters go, Monty Oom, the guy who made Ruby, he established a color naming rule because in order for a character or a team in Ruby to be actually formed, it has to associate with a color by name, association, or sound, that kind of thing.
Okay. And it's funny that you say that because Virginia messaged me something a little bit ago. Another fun fact, and I'm sure you were going to touch on this, saying that the team names in Ruby have four rules. The acronyms have to abide by these: be a color, sound like a color, mean a color, and makes people think of a color.
Yeah, Virginia's correct on that one. And when I say association with color, I mean like usually the name is a term that's used to describe a color like in a different language, that kind of thing. And it's also got to sound like a shade for a color.
Okay.
Now, obviously, Ruby is obviously named after a shade of red.
Right. I'm scrolling back up to the character list you had said. So there's Ruby, but then there's the other team. I have no idea how to pronounce that one. JNPR.
Juniper.
Juniper. Okay.
It's kind of like it's a blueberry basically. It's like a shade of berry that's blue,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
which when I was researching the color naming rule, I actually found a really fun fact that juniper is actually something that Monty was allergic to.
Oh, wow. That's definitely something you'll remember.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Okay. So why do so you mentioned that it's about a school, a high school that teaches people how to fight evil. Why does this school have to exist?
Well, I think it's pretty much the same reason that schools like in My Hero Academia and coincidentally Soul Eater existed because they need to teach the future generation of huntsmen and huntresses to combat because it's not that the other guys are getting too old, it's just that they need more hunters in a ongoing war against these monsters.
Okay. And what happens theoretically if there were no hunters and the evil force, you said remnant, right?
In Remnant, yeah.
Yeah.
But
What
the
happens if they basically become too powerful and take over?
well, Remnant is the world that it's being called there. Like it's basically their version of Earth.
Hmm.
The evil, the evil I mentioned are the Grim,
Okay.
and if they were to take over, they basically plunge the entire world into darkness. Basically, no one but the Grim would survive.
Okay. And that's the part that really to me sounds like Kingdom Hearts because again, that's pretty much the Heartless. The Heartless go around, you especially see this in Kingdom Hearts 1. The Heartless go around plunging different Disney worlds into darkness, and of course Sora's got to go around and fight off the Heartless and protect them.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna draw the analogy to Kingdom Hearts, but I didn't know if that was gonna be like a solid enough comparison.
Yeah, it's very much the same. You know, like I said, Kingdom Hearts mixed with My Hero Academia. You know, the idea of a school that teaches you how to be heroes, basically, or Sky High, for example.
Oh yeah, that's a classic one, that one.
Hmm. So I guess from there we kind of have to transition into talking a little bit about the characters. And
Oh boy.
so there's a lot here. So
And
we'll
I
go ahead
said,
and
sorry.
it's okay. So we'll go ahead and start with the main four. So those are Ruby. Tell me if I'm saying these right. Ruby, Weiss, Blake, and Yang.
Exactly. Those are the four main girls of Team Ruby and the show itself.
Okay. So why do we follow these four specifically?
Well, I think, and this is pretty much going with the color rule basically, and the whole spiel of Ruby is that the characters that we see here are based on the Grimm fairy tales, as well as beings in literature, mythology, history, that kind of thing. And with Ruby, Weiss, Blake, and Yang, it's basically taken the classic characters of their respective origin, and we follow them because we basically knew these fairy tales since we were kids.
Okay. Real quick, Trevor says in the chat here, kind of also like Castlevania if the Belmonts didn't exist. Dracula and company would kill all the humans and the humans would perish.
Well, perish is a pretty good description of what would happen. Another way of saying it would be we'd be screwed.
Right. So, going back to the characters, and again, looking at those main four, it seems to me because you sent her name first that of the four, Ruby here is like the main character. Is that accurate?
That's pretty much, yeah, that's accurate. I mean, leader of Ruby is obviously Ruby Rose. Not
Okay.
to be confused with the actress of the same name, which I found really weird.
Yeah, the failed Batwoman actress.
Ooh.
Hmm.
So, with Ruby Rose, I think it's obvious that her inspiration here is Little Red Riding Hood.
I definitely see it.
She's basically the youngest huntress in the show from the beginning because she got into Beacon Academy at a very young age, like 2 years earlier than she would have been planned to go to.
Hold on. You said Deacon Academy?
No, Beacon Academy.
Beacon. Okay, gotcha.
And one more thing before I elaborate further, because with the schools that are in Ruby, and despite what I found when I was searching her up, I mean, not searching her up, searching Ruby up the show up. Damn it. I didn't find any connections with the fact that Ruby and the other anime's Soul Eater have a similar premise with fighting monsters and elaborating on that, that they have unique weapons of sorts.
Mm-hmm. Which I definitely noticed that here. So, what's the story? Because in gathering all these pictures, I noticed that everyone has their own special type of weapon. So, what purpose do these weapons serve, and what, like, why specifically does Ruby wield a giant scythe?
Because, my dear friend, that's not just a scythe she's wielding, it's also a highly compactable sniper rifle.
What?
Yeah, in Ruby, if it can be made into a gun, it can be done.
Oh my goodness.
Because it's basically a weapon and a gun at the same time.
Nate, I hope you're listening. This sounds like your type of world.
And with Ruby's case, her weapon is a scythe and a sniper rifle, which, according to my notes, is based on a 50 caliber Barrett M82 sniper rifle.
Okay. That's, which, side note, that's like one of my bucket list guns to ever be able to shoot. And Virginia is telling me to Google Crescent Rose. So let me do that real quick.
Oh yeah, that's the name she gave her weapon, Crescent Rose. Which,
Okay.
I gotta be honest, sounds like it was a nightmare to animate. It's because she can spin that thing around like nothing.
Which, there it is right there. So that's its scythe form. There's its gun form, and then I'm guessing down here is how she stores it, like this brick.
Well, it's more like a casing, but yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So basically, it can transform from a gun into a melee weapon, or in this case, a scythe, because it's basically like a transformer of sorts, just not in the sentient variety like Soul Eater's does.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the thing about Ruby, and this goes on for all huntresses, is that they also have a secondary ability known as a semblance, which in this case acts like a superpower.
Okay.
So think of like the X gene from X-Men or just a quirk from My Hero Academia, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay. And real quick, hello to Jet Sparks, who is basically saying the same thing. It's a high-powered sniper rifle.
Groovy.
Okay.
And
So talk. So where do these quirks, we'll call them that, where do those come from?
well, the semblances are basically the same as superpowers that they're usually awakened at a certain time, like through training or through an emotional response, or to be more accurately, when someone's aura awakens, which is basically in this universe a human shield. Like it literally shields a person from fatal harm. Like it can hold up damage for some time, but then it has a limit, and then the aura just breaks.
So real quick, I just noticed another similarity. What was that you said about this semblance awakening under periods of like stress and trauma?
Uh, yeah, that's that's accurate because in some cases these semblances are awakened through emotional triggers.
Why, Trevor, you're gonna know what I'm talking about the most here. Is that not how the personas are awakened in Persona 5? Like what they're going through before the mask appears?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm an expert in Persona as Trev is here, but I'm going to a gut limb. Pardon me, I didn't know what happened to me. I think the thing is that the personas are awakened in a similar way, but I think the difference is the persona in question had to be like accepted, like the user has to accept the persona right there.
Yep, there he is.
And I was wondering when it was going to show up like that.
Yeah. Question, Trevor, were you doing it the mask, the tarot card, or
Honestly, I'm better off not knowing.
honestly, yeah.
But yeah, I
So,
mean, as far as semblances go, with Ruby, hers is speed, which basically allows her to jet it around the area really quickly. And if you look up a photo of her in her speed form, it kind of looks like a speeding bullet and like a spinning red bullet.
so real quick, what is that speed form?
Just type in Ruby Rose pedal burst.
Pedal burst. Okay.
Hey, I didn't come up with the name.
Okay.
So if you look at how she uses her speed, she's
Whoa.
fairly fast.
Yeah, that's not even recognizable as human right there.
Which actually I found out that later in the volumes that it's basically her condensing her matter or into that form so that she can move fast. She's basically breaking herself down on the molecular level and then can reassemble herself in another area. So another way to look at it is teleportation.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, with Ruby, she's basically the young, naive, optimistic leader who tries to be the best she can be, tries to live up to her fantasy of what a huntsman or huntress should be, like her mother.
Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and go to the next character, and
Oh
that
boy.
is Weiss.
Ah, Waishni, the ice queen of the team. And that's not
Okay.
a hyperbole, by the way, because her inspiration is literally Snow White.
So random question. Is there a death battle between her and Elsa?
Oh, Paul, let it go. But technically, Weiss
That
was
was a
in a death.
that was a good joke, dude, but I also got to say
It stinks.
You would know.
I would.
But no, technically, Weiss wasn't in a death battle with Elsa, but she was in a fight with Mitsuru Kyrjo from Persona 4,
Okay.
and she lost.
So okay. Trevor, you're the expert. Is that accurate? Is that a fair judgment there? But anyways, what is a Weiss's story?
Weiss is basically the heiress to the Schnee Dust Company, which is basically, well, for context wise, dust in Ruby is basically the equivalent to our gas and oil, which is basically a fuel source, and
Oh,
in
okay.
this case, ammo source, which is basically what they're shooting out of those guns.
Okay. So it's both a fuel source and gunpowder almost.
In a sense, yeah. And with Weiss, initially, she comes off as this bratty, know-it-all, entitled girl,
Okay.
which we later find out is because her family tree is, how do I put this very delicately? It sucks.
Okay. I know there's another Schnee character that we're gonna go ahead. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and go out of order here and bring her up. Winter Schnee.
That would be the eldest sister of of Weiss, and She's more of the Ice Queen because she was actually inspired by the Snow Queen this time.
Okay. So what is the relationship like between Weiss and Winter?
Well, Weiss and Winter comparatively have a more stable relationship in the family, which is very appropriate considering that her father, Jacques Schnee, oh my lord, I have seen a lot of bad dads in fiction, but Jacques, oh, good lord in heaven.
Okay.
To put it simply, he's just a typical tycoon who will basically do anything or screw anyone over to get rich.
Interesting. So Trevor like Okumura, basically.
I'm gonna humor you with that one and say yes.
Okay.
And then there's also the younger brother Whitley, who's basically pretty much a bigger brat than Weiss was.
Oh wow. And JetSpark saying plus he married his way into the family.
Yep, Jet Sparks, you got it right. Jacques was just a nobody who married into the family to get the wealth.
Wow.
And drove his wife, Weiss's mother, to alcoholism.
Ugh. Mm, that ain't good.
Oh, no, it isn't.
Yeah.
And
So
oh, go
okay,
ahead.
sorry. So we established that Ruby joined the hunters to be like her mother. Why did Weiss join?
I pretty much argue the opposite of Ruby is that she joined Beacon Academy to defy her father.
Okay, what did her father initially want her to do?
She, if I had to guess, I'd say he just wanted her to be like a bargaining chip or something, like to marry into another family and inherit their wealth too.
Oh, okay.
But
Gotcha.
also, but I think also like with what Winter did, because Winter joined the Elysian in the military force.
Okay. So let's see. Real quick. Trevor says she wanted to create a name for herself and make herself more than just her father's object.
Yep, that's
Okay.
actually well, that's more. I was getting to that slowly. I was just trying to get. I was getting there. But Trev pretty much summed it up perfectly. Thanks, Trev. I was pretty much rambling on at that point.
I gotcha. All right. So with that, let's go to the next
Oh, wait, wait,
character.
wait, 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 wait.
Oh wait. Okay.
We forgot to discuss her weapon and her abilities
Oh
for that
yeah.
point.
Let me bring that up again.
Now, as you can see from this picture, her main weapon is known as Mirtanaster, or
Hmm.
which I hope I'm pronouncing it right, which is basically a rapier sword, but with a revolver.
I definitely see the revolving component there in the hilts.
Which is pretty much, and this is a fun fact, Mirtanaster is the only ruby weapon to actually be made in real life on the YouTube channel Man at Arms.
I've seen that one. That's well, I've seen the channel, but I've not seen that video. I've seen him do, of course, Lord of the Rings swords like Anduril. I've seen him make keyblades. I've seen him make the diamond sword. I've not seen him do that.
And as far as her semblance goes, it's basically glyphs, which are basically these magic platforms that you can make that can either act as a platform or as a shield or just enhance movement greatly. And she can also make summons, which in later issues, not issues, volumes, she's able to summon like her own hardlight versions of the Grim, like boars, wasps, that kind of thing.
Okay,
And Winter has the same one too, except hers is a bit more advanced.
gotcha. Okay. And real quick, Matsuine, hello, says just stopping by and saying hello. Well, thank you, man. Appreciate that. Make sure you leave a like as you do. So is that it for now for Weiss?
Yeah, I think we covered all of Weiss's stuff.
Okay. Now let's talk about Blake. And right off the bat, I really like that handgun that it looks like she's got it on a leash or something in her right
Actually,
hand.
actually, you're not wrong, because that, my friend, is her main weapon, Gamble Shroud.
Okay.
And with that one, it's basically well, I think her weapon's a triple changer because that doubles as a handgun, a katana, and a grapple. I think I have the notes right here for what it is. It's a kusurigama.
Okay.
And of course, the sheath that you see in her left hand is also a
Mhm.
blade.
I definitely see that. It looks like an overgrown straight razor.
It's a cleaver, but yeah.
Okay.
And with Blake, because she's the recent member of Ruby to be in Death Battle, she's basically the first Faunus girl that we see in the series. And if the bow on her head wasn't an indication, she's a cat Faunus.
Okay.
Which you can also see in her eyes, because if you look closely at the eye color, it's yellow, but it has a slit on the pupil.
Yeah. You got to really look close in that picture I've got up there, but I definitely see it.
Now with Blake, she's basically the ninja cat girl of the series, basically the silent, recluse kind of deal, and she's basically hoping to make a better future for the faunus, for herself, that kind of thing.
Okay. And Trevor says Blake is his favorite Ruby character.
And I can imagine why. Wink, wink,
Mhm.
nudge, nudge.
So what's Blake's story? How does she have the cat ears? So
Well, the cat ears are well, she is a faunus, so basically it's a genetic thing when you get down to it. With her, she was part of a group known as the White Fang, which, if Trev's rants haven't been indication,
yeah, Jet Sparks brought that up here. He says, other than Velvet, what Blake has said, and extremists like the White Fang, Fauna seems to be treated no different than humans. On Remnant, they got an entire island of paradise all to themselves. And Trevor, you you just threw Trevor under the bus.
I'm
Good job.
sorry, Trev. I had to. I couldn't resist. But
So,
anyway, yeah, Jet and Sparks pretty much got it right on there because the Faunus are basically treated very poorly in Remnants because it's pretty much a racial thing.
okay. So, like, how were they created?
That's honestly something that I didn't understand it myself, and as much as I tried to look it up, I couldn't find a definitive answer, but it's probably just one of those spontaneous phenomena that popped up.
Okay. So, if we don't know where they come from, do we at least know where they would go and if they're named Cotton Eye Joe?
Paul,
It's my show. I'll punt if I want to.
oh brother.
All right, I'll play something cringy for myself. It's worth it.
I know this ship like the back of my hand.
I haven't used that one in a while.
I'm sorry, but slapstick always cracks me up.
Oh, that's perfectly fine, man.
Anyway, because with Blake, she's basically had to face prejudice and all that herself, and she joined the White Fang because initially that group was a peacekeeping organization dedicated to helping humanity see the good in the faunus as a whole. But unfortunately, thanks to a certain bullheaded ex-boyfriend of hers, it became a extremist group.
Okay. And I guess that ex-boyfriend is one of the characters that I have lined up here in the pictures, right?
Not really. I didn't send any photo for him because I'm pretty sure Trev and JetSparks pretty much covered the bases of that one. That would be Adam Taurus.
Adam Taurus. So Taurus is in the pistol company?
Taurus has the the sign, like the
Gotcha. Okay. I'll go ahead and bring up his picture real quick since we brought him up.
I won't talk much about
There
him
he is.
because there's not much to say about Adam aside from the fact that the guy had potential. He could have been a good character, but nope. They had to make him the Ella's ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, Trevor has ranted to Virginia and I about that before.
And as far as the inspiration for Blake and Adam go, oh, they're basically the Beauty and the Beast of Remnant.
Right. Even Jet Sparks agrees. He says Adam Taurus equals wasted piece of garbage. Okay.
Well spoken, Jet.
Okay. Random question just right off the bat. Who was more of a wasted piece of garbage, Adam Taurus or Kylo Ren?
Yes.
I love it. And Trevor says, boo Adam Taurus. There's a reason he's never won a death battle. I've used him in one of the worst villains in fiction history, just a jealous ex. And Jet Spark says both. Wow.
Let's just say that at first I sympathized with Adam because he basically had the hardest life because underneath that mask of his, he actually has a brand on his left eye.
Which I saw a picture of that. Let me see if I can bring that up real quick. Oh wow, that looks gnarly.
And if you look closely at the mark, it says SDC, which is short for Schnee Dust Company.
So Schnee's father did that.
Well, more or less, his company did that because I think, as Blake pointed out when they first met, it's Ruby and when she pointed out with Blake and sorry, I got a little out of hand there.
You're good.
With Blake, when she was introduced to Ruby and Weiss, she noted that the faunus were basically used as a slave labor for the Schnee Dust Company.
Oh, okay.
And let's just say what you see on Adam here was the easier way of getting disciplined.
Ugh. So it gets worse than that.
Fatally.
Oh. Okay.
Let's just say it has a very poor accident record.
I'm sure. All right, but back to Blake.
And with her semblance, hers basically allows her to create shadow clones of herself. Not like Naruto per se, but she can basically make the illusion of her going really fast, like Ruby does, except her clones basically propel her in a direction she chooses.
Okay.
And she
that
can also
reminds me of an ability that you can use in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity when you're playing as Impa. You can create doppelgangers of Impa made of Sheikah technology.
And with her clones specifically, she can also infuse them with dust properties. So, like, she can infuse it with fire dust, electrical dust, ice dusts.
Okay. Trevor says Kylo Ren's better because he is an Adam, but both suck. Amen.
Reach into the choir, Trev.
Yep. So, is that all for Blake, or is there more?
I think that's all for Blake that I can point out, and now we get to my favorite character of Ruby, the one who got me into the series, Wanyang Xiaolong.
Okay, and looking at her loadout right away, it looks like melee-wise she mostly relies on punches, but I can see her gauntlets have gun barrels in them, kind of like Deadshot.
You'd be half right on that one. Those are her Ember Silica weapons, which are basically shotgun gauntlets.
Okay.
Just one punch from that can send a person flying like that.
Yeah. You've got okay, so knowing guns like I do, I'm wondering like is she firing slugs out of that, or is it like birdshot? And how does the birdshot not like go into her knuckles or something?
Well, I think when she punches, she lowers her fist down, also the shots can escape.
Oh, so it's that. Okay.
Yeah, and it's Ember Silica, not Amber Silica. Not to correct you, Jet Sparks. It's just a.
Oh my goodness! You don't know Xiao Long. Kobe's wanted to talk about her. Wink, wink. You know what, Trevor? Just for that. And you know what? I'll throw in one of these too.
Well, I hate to admit it, but Trev's not wrong on that front.
That is true.
I mean, when I first saw her, like when she fought Tifa Lockhart in Death Battle, I mean, wow.
Yeah, I can imagine. By the way, who won that death battle?
Yang won.
And would you say that was a fair decision?
I think that back then I would have agreed with the result, but nowadays with how they're basically upgrading their characters outside of Death Battle, I think Tifa might have had more of an edge against Yang, but again, that's up for interpretation.
Okay, fair enough.
And with Yang, it's actually interesting because she's actually Ruby's half sister.
Really?
Yeah, she comes from a different mother of sorts, which we'll get to later or down the line. But
Real quick, Kobe, your microphone just changed somehow. You got way more quiet and muffled. Is everything okay on your end?
it should be. I don't know why that's happening.
Did you
Uh,
actually?
oh,
It
whoops.
sounded like you had covered your mic with something.
Oh, I don't know how that happened. So, is everything good now? Good?
It's better. It's not as clear as it was before, but it's not as bad. So I'll let you know if anything changes.
All right. So, if you can hear me more clearly, and okay, so back with Yang, like I said, she's the half sister of Ruby. She's basically the muscle martial artist of the group, and the heavy hitter.
Okay.
Or in layman's terms, she's the tank of the group.
Gotcha. JetSparks here says that her semblance pretty much boils down to a temper tantrum. Her father's words.
Actually, that's pretty much accurate because her semblance basically allows her to go Super Saiyan, which her blonde hair does glow and her eye any damage dealt to her and then dish it back twice as much.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And she's a bit impulsive, she's a bit of a hothead, but like you, me, and Trev, she's a punslinger.
Gotcha.
In
Okay.
fact, one of her lines in Volume 2 is, I like to kick things off with a yang.
Oh my goodness. I don't have the oh brother this guy stinks thing in here,
Hey,
but
it was Yang's pun, not mine.
I know. But still, that's just wow.
Yeah, but as far as the volumes go, like further down the line, she does end up going through something major that basically changes her whole outlook on life and basically changes how she operates as a huntress.
Okay. And
And I
Chris
guess,
says, I guess her fights don't last very long.
darn it, Chris!
Wow.
But
My
like I,
goodness.
but like I said, and anyone who's seen Ruby will get what I'm about to say. I guess you could say Adam had a hand in that.
That is true. Real quick, do you mind if Michael pops in for a moment? Just to say hey.
What's up, Mike?
Stand by, Mike. And apparently whatever it was that you had said, Kobe, Trevor says too soon.
Yeah, this is kind of a minor spoiler when I say this, but apparently Adam cut off Yang's arm, like at the end of
Yes,
Volume 3.
which Virginia just messaged that to me as retaliation for her friendship with Blake. Okay.
Yeah. Which she does get an upgrade with a prosthetic arm that is outfitted with Ember Silica-like technology. But overall, it's just the fact that Yang lost an arm that was just, oy.
I gotcha. And Michael is here now, still posing as Sauron.
How's it going, Kobe?
Going fine, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing
How's life up on the mountain,
so.
Mike?
I just wanted to pop in and say hey to you.
Well, hi, Mike. And yeah, I know a thing or two about living in the mountains. So
Yeah.
And okay, so real quick question, Kobe. What is Jet Sparks talking about here with the infamous Bumblebee ship?
Okay, before I get into that, it's worth noting that Ruby does feature elements of LGBTEQ kind of thing, and Bumblebee is the name of not only her motorcycle, which is a pretty sweet ride, I might add,
Mhm.
but it's also the shipping name that was given to Blake and Yang's shipping.
Okay,
Mhm.
So they're basically bisexual.
gotcha. Okay,
I'm not sure if that's a touchy subject to touch on this channel. I'm just
no, that's if it's an important part of the show, then it needs to be brought up.
I was going to get to that. I just didn't know how to approach the subject.
That's fine. So let's see. Is there anything further to talk about with Yang?
Well, apart from the obvious
You don't
shotgun
have to use
gauntlets
politically correct.
or semblance, which is basically a Super Saiyan in power up,
Mhm.
there's pretty much not much else to talk about her except that she's a real go getter. Quite the hit. She's quite the hitter.
Okay. So before we move
Mhm.
on to the next set of before we move on to the next set of characters, my question for this team as a whole is why specifically those four did they come together?
Well, I think the specifics of that is that when a student attends Beacon, they basically have to take an initiation course where they're launched into a forest, which is not a hyperbole, by the way. They are literally launched into the forest by
Like
a catapult.
catapults?
Yeah, pretty much. And when they first see their teammate, the first person they see when they land will immediately become their teammate for a whole semester.
Okay.
And in this case, Ruby saw Weiss. Yeah, Virginia, you pretty much got it out of the park with the yeeted into the woods.
If I had the Goofy yell on standby, I would play that. There you go.
But yeah, it's basically how the teams are formed. They basically have to see each other or firsthand before they form the team.
Okay.
And
So
their initial
it could have been random chance. Like say members of Team Ruby could have instead seen Team Juniper and they've got that team.
yeah, it's basically a matter of how it all works. It's also just a matter of how it's written, basically.
Okay. So did they initially get along with each other at first, or was it kind of they, you know, butt
Oh,
heads?
butting heads thing. Well, I think it's obvious that for the first three volumes, Weiss in particular butted heads with Ruby because Weiss felt she should have led the team, not Ruby, due to the fact that Ruby was younger than she is, and
Mhm.
therefore not as exactly well versed in teamwork as her other teammates.
Gotcha.
And it's because of Weiss's attitude, and she gets a pep talk later regarding how she acts in the team that basically allows her to accept Ruby as her leader. And it's also because of Weiss having a prejudiced opinion on the fawn is because of her family being attacked by the White Fang. It's
Mhm.
also that they had to get along with the fact that there's going to be differences. There's going to be opposing arguments, perceptions, that kind of thing.
Okay. So the next team we're going to get, of course, into is Team Juniper, which, by the way, Michael, I forgot to ask, but have you seen any of this show that we're talking about, Ruby?
No, but I mean, I figured to pop in to maybe learn.
Okay, fair enough. So, of course, Michael, any
Oh,
questions that you
but
have, feel free to ask.
yeah. Although I was gonna say, if Kobe were to ever get on the channel again, I know exactly what we were to talk
Oh, yeah, what's
Oh,
that?
about.
what?
What was it, Mike?
Oh, my internet. I was saying, Rising Revenge of Kobe's favorites.
Uh,
So what was that? Rising Revengeance, you said, Mike?
Oh, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Metal. I really want to do a beginner series on Metal Gear at some point because that's one that I've really been itching to play myself. But I think that's another like prime one for a beginner series.
But for the moment, I'd say Paul is a stranger who will remain.
I'm guessing that is a Metal Gear reference.
It's basically one of the tracks in Metal Gear Rising. Only it's called A
Gotcha.
Stranger I Remain.
Mhm.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so getting back to Ruby, talking now about Team Juniper, John.
Jean Arc, basically based on, and before we get further into it, for Juniper, they basically based this team off of mythological and historical figures who have had to disguise themselves as the opposite gender.
Okay,
So with Jean Arc, who is basically based on Joan of Arc, because in that particular tale, Joan had to disguise herself as a man, I think. I could be wrong because I'm not exactly that big of a history buff.
okay,
And Jean was basically the dorky high school kid who tried to fit in with the big boys, try to fit in as being a huntsman, despite his goofy personality, his quirks, if you will.
okay. And wasn't he also in a relationship with one of the Team Ruby members, or was I misremembering something?
I wouldn't say it was a relationship per se, but it was sort of I want to say a failed relationship that could have gotten somewhere, but fate had to intervene in a very particular way.
Okay, gotcha. And Trevor says that John is known as Vomit Boy.
Yeah,
What?
in the first episode of Ruby, he's shown on a ship heading for Beacon, but unfortunately, he doesn't exactly agree with the. He gets airsick,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
and of course, if you notice with Jean's picture, his main weapon is a hand-me-down from his great grandfather, which is basically known as Croatia Moors, and it's a sword and shield kind of thing.
Hmm.
And the slits you see on the shield are basically allowing it to change into the sheath for the sword so that it's easy to carry weapon.
Okay. And this one, I was able to see with, of course, the weapons Team Ruby carries. I was able to see how those can turn into guns. How does that turn into a gun?
Oh, that's a simple one. It doesn't.
That's kind of what I thought.
I mean, sure, it gets an upgrade later in the volumes with enhancing the blade of the sword and then also adding a special metal to the shields to make it more durable. And in the current volume, it's basically given a hard light upgrade, which can extend hard light projections to make the shield wider.
Okay. And what is his semblance?
Well, his semblance took a while to activate because I don't know if it's the writers just deciding when they're going to activate his semblance or anything, but essentially his semblance allows him to enhance the aura of anyone he comes into contact with.
Okay. And
Essentially,
his was the one you said that awakened in trauma, right?
that's one way of looking at it. Yeah, I mean, it's not so much trauma as that he saw one of his friends badly hurt and tried to heal them, and eventually that emotional outburst allowed him to heal them.
Okay. By the way, Michael, I know you said you got to go in the private chat. Thanks for popping in.
Mhm. Yeah,
Have a
and
good
also
one.
it was nice meeting you, Kobe.
Likewise.
All right, so didn't mean to cut you off there, Kobe. What were you saying about him? See, he saw someone that was hurt that he cared about, and that's awoken it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a fatal injury. It was just a very. I mean, it's not. It wasn't fatal per se. It was just very bad.
Okay. Excuse me.
And basically, the semblance allows him to strengthen another person's aura to basically accelerate the healing process, basically make them stronger, more durable, that kind of thing. And it
Okay.
stems from the fact that when one of his teammates, who we'll discuss later, awakened his aura, they found out that he had plenty of aura in his system.
Gotcha. Okay. So the next character then we're going to talk about is
Nora Valkyrie.
Nora.
Every team has a wild card, and Nora, she's the queen of the castle.
Okay. I can already tell what her weapon can turn into. I see the revolver there. That's either a minigun or a grenade launcher.
You got it right. It's a grenade launcher.
Oh, okay.
It also doubles as you can see here, a warhammer.
Okay.
And as far as her inspiration goes, none other than the mighty Thor.
Okay. So Nora instead of Thor.
Yeah, and obviously her last name's a dead giveaway.
Right, Valkyrie. That's Norse inspired.
Yeah, the Valkyries are basically Odin's army that escorts the dead to Valhalla.
Okay.
And with Nora, she's basically the peppy, the happy-go-lucky, the bubbly girl who basically tries to be friends with everyone. Is just all around. She's eccentric and she's a bit crazy, but we like her. Okay, I see that Paul is out for the moment. So, with that said, not much else to talk about Nora except for obviously. Oh, you're back.
Oh yeah. I just had to get up and turn my AC off for a second. It was getting a little chilly in here.
Oh, you sure Weiss isn't nearby?
Could have been.
But let's see, where was I? Oh yeah,
Trevor says so. I guess you could say her enemies are Dunthor.
Paul, would you please?
Which one? The Whooper one again?
The Whooper, please.
You got it.
Delicious Whoopers, the kid is a boss.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And yeah, she's basically to Juniper what Yang is to Ruby. She's the heavy hitter. She's basically the tank of the group.
Okay. So why did she, and we kind of I don't know if we talked about this for John, but why did she go to Beacon to do what she does?
He went to Beacon, and this is kind of a minor spoiler because this is gone over in Volume 1, but he faked getting in.
Wait, hold on. Nora is a guy?
No, John.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if we had talked about it. John getting in, but basically both John and Nora. How'd they get in? Why'd they get in? That's what I meant to ask.
Well, Jean basically faked transcripts to get into Beacon to train as a huntsman against his family's wishes.
Okay.
And which I gotta say, I sympathize with him in a way because he has 7 older sisters and he's the only boy in the family.
Yeah, I can imagine what that's like.
I basically was the youngest of 4 with 3 older sisters, so that's how I sympathize.
Meanwhile, in my family, I'm the oldest of 4, and most of my siblings are my brothers, except my sister Morgan.
Ah. Yeah, but like I said, John wanted to be a... Yes, Chris, thank you for that.
I've got a new clip that you just gave me the perfect way to test, Chris.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I was wondering when that was going to pop up. But yeah, Jean just wanted to be a huntsman like his great grandfather, but his mother, being the helicopter mom she is, which I'm guessing because we never see her in the series.
Hmm.
He just wanted to prove that he. Now, as for Nora, she basically got in through conventional means, signing up, that kind of thing. Nothing too special about it there. Although she does share kind of a trauma with another teammate that's pretty much going to be at the end of the lineup for Juniper.
Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and bring up the next person from
Oh.
Juniper, and that is Pyra.
Pyrrha.
Really? Pyra.
Pyrrha Nikos. The
Okay.
invincible girl of Mistral Academy and one of the most bad to the bone women in R.W.B.Y.
Okay. By the way, hello to Jeff. What's up, man?
And as you can see from Pyrrha's appearance, she is based on the Greek warrior Achilles.
Okay. Quick question. Who came first, Pyra or Pyra / Mithra?
Well, R.W.B.Y. debuted in 2013, and so Pyrrha came first.
Okay. Because I do see... Okay, help me out here, because I know nothing about Xenoblade. Which one's Pyra, which one's Mithra? Is Pyra the redhead?
Yes.
Okay. I definitely see some similarities between this Pyra and, of course, the one from Xenoblade.
Well, you'd be right on that front, except the Pyra from Xenoblades got. Yes, thank you, Trevor.
Okay. And real quick, Jeff says, not much, just getting ready for his wedding. You're getting married today, dude?
Dang, man, congrats.
Awesome. And Jet Sparks just said something in the chat here, Kobe. I don't know if you wanted to cover this. He says Pyrrha is best girl, R.I.P.
Oh, that's one spoiler I really, really wanted to avoid.
Okay. I mean, in fairness, as far as me, Virginia did message me about it also, but
Well, it was
I'm
for the sake of
sorry.
people who are watching this who haven't seen R.W.B.Y. yet. But yeah, unfortunately, Pyrrha was killed in Volume 3.
Okay. We don't have to go any further than that. We don't have to talk about how she died or anything like that, but
Better off.
there you go. And he says he's getting married on the 12th. Awesome, dude. That is in 4 days from now, dude. Wow. Have you
And
had your
again,
bachelor? You had your bachelor party yet?
but yeah, congratulations, Jeff. Well done.
Absolutely.
Okay, going back on Pyrrha, who is my second favorite R.W.B.Y. character of all time, because like her inspiration, she is just one of the best fighters in R.W.B.Y. because man, she can just keep up with the best of the best, and she can take on 4 people at the same time.
Okay.
And as far as her weapons go, her weapons are known as Milo and Akuo, which are Greek for something. I really couldn't get the translation
Okay.
that well. And as you can
Trevor, if you know it, go ahead and say it in the comments since you're studying mythology.
okay, so her sword / Zypho blade also doubles as a right rifle, an M1 Garant to be specific, and a spear.
Okay. Nice.
Which, by the way, in the first volume, she has a really good throw.
Oh wow.
And her shield, Akuo, is basically the same kind of shield that the Greek warriors used that were pretty handy at the time, which it's also worth mentioning that, in my opinion, Pyrrha is basically what you get if you crossed over Wonder Woman, Captain America, and Magneto.
Why Magneto? Is that her semblance?
Yes, her semblance is polarity.
Okay. And so she's able to basically control metal.
Yes, and that's why she got the title of Invincible Girl, is because when she's fighting, she uses it to redirect an opponent's attack subtly. It's not
Okay.
subtly, but it's very You got to keep an eye out for that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely interesting, and I would want to see how that works out.
Well, I would recommend seeing a scene from Ruby from Volume 2, Episode 5, Extracurricular, which
Hmm.
basically shows up here his fighting skills and all that. It's perfectly. I recommend showing that one.
Okay.
But basically, she's a mix of Wonder Woman and Captain America when it comes to fighting style.
Okay. So why is she here?
She basically transferred from Haven Academy, which is somewhere in Mistral, because she wanted to be someone who's not known or, for her fames. Basically, she just wanted to be treated like a normal person.
Okay. And
And
then skirting ever so close to that spoiler, does she achieve that before she is taken out?
for a moment, a fleeting moment, yes.
Okay.
And I guess she succeeded because Jean saw her as a normal old girl, and they would have been a good couple. They
Gotcha.
actually had a shipping name, Arcos.
Okay. Real quick, Trevor says, lucky for you, I do know this. Milo means speak, and Akuo means listen in Greek. So her weapons names literally mean speak and listen. Interesting.
Hmm. I did I did know that, but I didn't get the sentiment of it at the time.
So I wonder, so knowing then what we just learned there, Kobe, how would you say that that applies to Pura as a character?
Pyrrha is a selfless, caring individual who's basically she was just too pure for this world. To put it simply, she was just too nice for
Gotcha.
her own good, and she's a good fighter. She's a good warrior. She's a good friend. I just wish we could have gotten more of her.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the last character of Team Juniper, Lai Ren, or is it Lee Ren?
I think either one would probably work, and he's the guy I mentioned who shared trauma with Nora when they were younger before they got into Beacon Academy,
Okay.
where they ended up having to hide from one of the scarier grim of the series, the Knucklehead.
Okay. And his weapons there, obviously, there's handguns, but there's these really gnarly looking daggers that come down from the barrel that look really cool. I'd like to see how he fights with those.
Those are Stormflower, which are basically a machine pistol and sickles.
Okay.
And basically he fires them like a SMG, and they can also act as a melee weapon with the sickle part.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
with the but with like later in the volume, he upgrades the weapon so that they can have a grapple function. Which, sure, if it's a gun, it's got to have a grapple.
Okay.
And as far as Ren goes, he's basically the silent, wise type. He's basically the polar opposite to Nora. Because
Okay.
whereas while Nora's happy-go-lucky, all over the place, Ren's more composed. He's more calm, more level-headed, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't obvious from his attire, or his inspiration is Mulan.
Okay. But wait, hold on, time out. Wasn't Mulan a Disney property, or was Mulan already a fairy tale before Disney did what they did?
I think Mulan was a tale before Disney got their hands on it, and before they did their own take on it. I don't know specifically if that's the case, but I'm willing to take any interpretation I can.
Okay. JetSpark says in the earlier volumes, Ren was voiced by Monty Ohm himself before his brother took over for him after his unfortunate death, and it was on my birthday over a decade ago. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was gonna go into a whole behind the scenes thing, but I figured it would be best to talk about it outright. During Volume 3, specifically around the time Volume 3 aired, Monty ended up going into a coma due to an allergic reaction to a medical procedure.
Okay.
And unfortunately, he never woke up from that coma.
Hmm.
So on February 1st, 2015, we lost Monty Oum,
Yeah.
which, if you watch Death Battle, you know that they had a tribute for him during the Samus versus Boba Fett remastered fight.
I think so.
And Ruby at the time was also made when the other popular web series, Red versus Blue, was in its 10th season. So
Okay.
another factoid there. But going back on Ren, his semblance is basically tranquility, which is basically the ability to hide emotions, like mask emotions.
Okay.
I mean, not that it applies
So,
to himself, but it's basically allows him to mask the emotions of other people around him, basically hide them from the Grimm because the Grimm are attracted to negative emotions.
okay, that's another thing that they pull from Kingdom Hearts, specifically from the monsters known as the Unversed from Birth by Sleep.
Yeah, that's a pretty accurate assumption. And yeah, the Grimm are attracted to negative emotions, and they're animals through and through.
Okay. Let me see if I can find a good picture of them real quick while I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, and Brandon and Nora have the pretty much the only working relationship apart from Yang and Blake in Ruby where they're actually a couple. The problem is though that
Okay.
Ren's too emotionally distant to oh yikes.
Yeah, what in the world?
That is the Knuckleavy.
And that's a Grib.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did say that the Grimm not only were limited to animals but also mythological creatures as well.
Okay.
But for your sake, don't look up any of the Grimm that look like bugs.
I
Trust me
have
on
to.
this.
I have to.
Don't say I didn't warn you. I think the most popular one is the Sentinel one, which is basically a
Oh
really
my
creepy.
god.
It's just a really creepy centipede.
Okay, here. I'm gonna just do it this way. Stream, I'm sorry.
Well, actually,
Now,
no, those are fan-made egg cribs. So, but that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
wow. That is
Oh,
uncomfortable.
oh, and it gets better. They spit acid.
Oh my god, wow. So it's like the Heartless from Kingdom Hearts mixed with Alien.
That's a fair assumption. Yeah, and there are a few others. Like there is a grin that's basically modeled after a gorilla.
Okay.
Yeah, Jet Sparks. That's my reaction too. But it's yeah. And as yeah, I think that's far as Ren goes for the most part. And we're done with the two major teams.
Okay. So, question then before we move on to the other characters. Real quick, Trevor says, in the words of PewDiePie, oh my goodness, it gets even worse. But my question is, does Team Ruby and Juniper generally get along with each other, or are they like hard and bitter rivals?
Oh no, they work along on each other very well. I mean, that's pretty much the goal of the Huntsmen and Huntresses is that they work together even though they're on different teams.
Okay. Okay. So moving on then to other characters outside that. Again, I'm going to go a little bit out of order here. This is a character. Now, this is a character you did not send me in the list, but Virginia asked me to include it, and that's Tai Yang.
That would be Yang and Ruby's biological father. And
Okay.
he's actually voiced, fun fact, by the head of Rooster Teeth, Bernie Burns.
Okay.
I couldn't find much on him apart from the fact that he taught at Signal Academy alongside his brother-in-law, who we might get to later if we're going out of order here. But he's the guy who basically taught Yang how to fight, basically master her semblance, all that.
Okay.
But yeah, that's basically the general consensus for Tai Yang Xiaolong.
Hmm. So what? So he, I take it, is someone that has already graduated Beacon Academy and is out there taking the fight to the Grim.
Actually, he's retired per se
Oh,
because Tai was actually part of one of Beacon's best hunters. Excuse me. He was part of one of Beacon's best teams, Team Stark, which was Summer Rose, Ruby's mom,
mhm.
Tai Yang Xiaolong, and then you got the two others, Crow and Raven Bronwood.
Okay. Which I have pictures for those here in a minute. Virginia says he's a polar opposite to Schnee.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Because while the Schnee family, aside from Winter, is basically cold and calculating, Tai Yang is more warm and loving, which I
Okay.
can't exactly say for Raven.
So the next character after that is Professor Ozpin, and we're going to kind of rapid fire through these remaining characters here.
All right,
But
sorry.
Professor Ozpin,
He's
it's okay.
yeah, he's basically the headmaster of Beacon Academy, and he's a bit of a mysterious one. Very what's the word I'm looking for? What's that word? It's on the tip of my tongue. I just can't think of it.
Real quick, JetSpark says apparently Tai Yang had enough game to get with both his teammates, Raven first, then Summer.
Not gonna comment on that.
Trevor says enigmatic.
Yep, that's the one.
Okay.
And yeah, Ozpin is basically based on the Wizard Oz from the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
And he's not much of a fighter. He's more of a teacher, as you can see here. But he has, quote, made more mistakes than any woman, man, or child ever on the planet. And that's pretty much a clue as to his real origin, which I won't go into here because of spoilers. But
Okay.
just know he's the wise old teacher of Beacon Academy.
And his cane there looks like it could be used as a weapon, correct?
A melee weapon, yeah.
Okay.
But that's
But
it.
that no gun transformation?
No, but it just extends like a cane.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Next character we're going to talk about is Glenda.
Glinda Goodwitch, the headmistress of Beacon Academy and one of its profound teachers.
Okay.
And obviously based on Glinda the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz, obviously.
Right. Why does she have a riding crop?
That's her weapon, the disciplinarian, and which basically allows her to channel her
Oh.
semblance, which is
Okay.
telekinesis.
So she's force sensitive.
Not for a sense that she can just move things with her mind.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
she is the first huntress, pro huntress we see in R.W.B.Y on screen.
Okay.
Because at that time R.W.B.Y wasn't in Beacon yet.
Okay. So let me see if I'm imagining this right. Is it where a young Ruby sees her doing her job and she's like, I want to be like that?
Well, kind of. They do meet on the same day. It's just that Ruby's at that age where she is going to be accepted in the Beacon Academy. It's just that she wasn't licensed to help her.
Okay. Real quick, Trevor says Glinda is a criminally underused character, has been since the first few volumes.
That's pretty much true, Trev, and it's mostly because of the behind the scenes controversy that went on with her voice actress, because her original voice actress had a bit of a alcohol problem, so they had to cut
Ooh.
ties with her. And she does
Okay.
appear in like volume 8, but it's a silent cameo.
Gotcha. All right. So next character is this guy.
Ugh, James Ironwood, the headmaster of Atlas Academy, the Tin Man in Ozpin's gang,
Okay.
and I think he's the first anti-villain I've ever seen.
Okay, so real quick, for those that don't know, what is an anti-villain?
I think it's basically the same as an anti-hero, except they don't help the heroes or the community itself, but they're more trying to preserve something that belongs to them or their own safety, but not trying to endanger the world itself.
Okay.
And as you can see from his guns, those are his dual pistols, due process.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say he's the Tin Man of the group, that's not just a exaggeration.
He's literally made of metal.
He's cybernetic,
Oh yeah, that's right. I can see it in his left hand there.
and also his forehead.
Which, oh, that's what that is? I thought that was a band-aid.
Nope, that's part of his head.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
like the Tin Man, he's just cold. Like he's basically a stone cold soldier, just uh, very authoritarian kind of thing. And that's also due in part to his semblance, which is metal, which basically strengthens his resolve to accomplish his goals. Basically, it strengthens his mind to allow more focus.
Gotcha. Also because you said stone cold.
What? 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 What?
I
another
walked into that one, didn't I?
That's another one I ain't used in a while. But hey, real quick though, I hope the clips are not becoming too much.
Oh no, no, no! They're fine. They're perfectly timed. And actually, if I wasn't so shy about showing my face on here, you'd probably see my reaction.
That's perfectly fine, dude. All right, so next character, and we've kind of already gone over her, but I'll bring her up again. Winter. So
Winter,
we already established that she is the eldest sister of the Schnee children. So aside from her relationship with Weiss, what is her story?
yeah, she's basically the eldest child of the Schnee family, and she didn't want any part of the Schnee Desk Company thing because of how her father was operating it.
Mhm.
And so she decided to join the Atlas military and become Ironwood's second in command.
Okay, so does that also make her an anti-villain?
No, she sees through Ironwood's BS, if I can say that, and
No,
without
you're
getting censored.
it's all right, man. You're allowed to cuss on here.
Well, I'm not much of a cusser, but I just try to think of the appropriate words to say.
Trevor says she's nothing to sneeze at.
And I thought Yang's puns were bad.
Yeah, I'm running out of clips to play for just here. I'll do this one.
Very interesting, but stupid.
Oh yeah, that describes Trevor in a nutshell.
I didn't say it, Trevor.
I'm kidding, Trev. I'm just kidding. And don't take it too seriously. But
All right.
anyway, Winter is just basically Weiss, but much older.
Okay.
And
All right.
yeah, so let's see, who's next?
This guy.
Sun Wukong.
Yes. Now I can tell right away what his gun form is. Those are lever action rifles.
Yeah,
Right?
that's his main weapon, which is let's see here. I think I have the note for that guy somewhere. Let's see. Here it is. It's Ryu Bang and Jing Bang.
Okay.
Jingu Bang. And it's not just a staff, my friend. It's gunchucks.
So
Shotgun.
nunchucks that he can shoot.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And as if the Faunus genes and the overall look wasn't obvious, Sun here is based on the myth of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King of Journey to the West.
Wow. So real quick, I just kind of on a side note here. So have you ever heard of the YouTuber Brandon Herrera?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy that he's the AK guy. And one of the things he's known for is he's known for looking at cursed gun images. And seeing how you described this guy's weapons as gun nunchucks made me remember this. And for any gun nuts wondering, that's basically a Mosin Nagant.
And
2 Mosin Nagants.
so yeah, there's not much to talk about Sun except for the fact that he appears to be a good friend of Blake during their White Fang days, although I don't see any indication of Sun joining the White Fang.
Okay.
But initially, before the Bumblebee shipping was a thing, it was not that he and Blake would be a couple.
Okay.
Because, like his inspiration, he's just a goofy, fun-loving kind of guy, and yeah.
Okay.
And another fun fact I want to point out here, which is minor, but his gunchuck trick is actually based on Arnold Schwarzenegger's shotgun spin from Terminator 2.
Oh, the thing.
Yeah, like, how did he do that?
Probably lots of practice.
But still,
Also, Trevor, you remind me of bats.
okay, dang, that is a really good Joker impression.
What can I say? I've had practice.
Yeah, I can tell.
I love it. All right. So I'm not going to do the full quote. We're getting too far off topic here. All right. So next character, Cinder.
Oh. She's the secondary antagonist of Ruby, and oh, good God in heaven, she really gets my blood boiling.
As in she makes you angry, or you find her beautiful?
She really angers me, and despite her beauty, it's only skin deep.
Okay.
And as if the name wasn't an indication, she's based on Cinderella.
Gotcha.
If Cinderella snapped.
Okay. And Chris says it's getting heated. That's all this stream is just puns, and I love it.
Well, it wouldn't be puns without Ruby.
Yeah. Virginia says Cinder momentarily turned Kobe French with the laugh that you had.
Oh mon dieu.
And Trevor says, I'll enjoy making her lose in her upcoming fight of my villain season. Spoiler lol.
Make sure it hurts, Trev. Make sure it really hurts.
All right, so I'm taking it that the fire that we're seeing her summon here, that is her semblance, right?
It's basically pyrokinesis in a nutshell, yes, but it's also, excuse me, her semblance also allows her to break down glass and dust and form it into projectile weapons.
Okay. Now, we really haven't talked about any sort of bad guys up to this point.
Well, apart
and you
from
said that
sorry.
And you said that she's the secondary antagonist. Who's number one?
That, Paul, would be none other than Salem, the creator of all the Grimm.
Okay, so that's who I got. So, okay, gotcha.
Basically, she's the opening narrator because we're assumed to believe that she might be the good guy, but we later find out that she's a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And her backstory is just littered in tragedy and just wow.
Okay. What's
But
she
yeah,
based off of?
She's based off of the Salem witch trials, obviously.
Mhm.
But as far as the other inspiration goes, I dare to say, and I couldn't find much on her, is that she's probably based on the Wicked Witch of the West.
Gotcha. Okay.
And she's just I think, without going into spoilers, she's basically like Dracula from Castlevania, with her wanting to end the world and basically end her own life because of the tragedy she went through. I
Okay.
believe Alucard from Castlevania put it best. It's the longest suicide note.
Oh, wow. Trevor, why didn't you mention that last night, you or Dan, the quote of "It's the longest suicide note." And real quick, Trevor says Kobe and I collaborated on a fight with Salem in DB++. Who was that fight against?
I think it was either against Rhea from Fire Emblem Three Hopes, or I think it might have been with Dracula too.
Okay. All right. So talking about Salem and Cinder here, how do the two of them come together, and what do they ultimately hope to achieve?
Well, like I said with Salem, she just wants to destroy all of Remnant so that she can finally pass on because she's immortal.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can imagine, she's just seen it all, been through it all that crap.
Okay.
And with Cinder, she basically joined Salem just to gain more power.
Okay.
Which in this case, and this is another extension of the lore, is that the only way to beat Salem is through the use of four relics and, by extension, four maidens.
So real quick, I'm drawing a connection in my mind here. Would you say that Salem is like Palpatine and Cinder is like Vader as
That's
far as
one,
as far as hierarchy goes?
that's one way to put it, and the Darth Vader similarity with Cinder is not too far off, I'll think, consider.
Okay.
Because later down the volume, she does end up getting a grim arm attached to her body.
Okay.
Oh, and Trev, you're doing fine. You're actually helping out a bit. I'm not a bit, a whole lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, with Cinder, she gets a grim arm that basically allows her to steal maiden powers, which, for context, the maidens are four individuals chosen throughout history that can basically wield magic.
Okay. Are any of the characters that we've covered up to this point any of those?
Well, Winter is the current Winter Maiden, which we later find out in the latest volume.
Okay.
Cinder is the Fall Maiden, which was originally going to go to Pyrrha, but yeah,
Pyrrha died.
yeah. The Summer Maiden is currently unknown, and the Spring Maiden is another character that we'll discuss. Not to say that it's not going to happen, that it's never more going to come up.
Okay.
If
Fair
that's
enough.
the indication.
I gotcha. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the next character. This guy.
Roman Torchwick. He was the main antagonist of R.W.B.Y Volume 1, and initially we thought the series was just going to be the team not only combating Grim, but also stopping this guy here.
Okay.
And as you can see from his attire and his personality, he's a gangster, a criminal,
Mhm.
and just basically a snob.
Gotcha. And I take it that cane of his is what he uses to fight with.
Despite not having a semblance, he does fight well with that cane, which also doubles as a grapple and a flash grenade.
Okay. You brought something up interesting here. He doesn't have a semblance. So what determines so people basically can go throughout their lives and never awaken a semblance, correct?
That's the general idea, I think. Yeah, and it's also because Roman hasn't gotten anything too emotionally drastic to go through with getting a semblance.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. And so does he stay relevant throughout the later parts of the story when Salem and Cinder come in, or is he just kind of pushed aside?
I guess you could say he was pushed aside, as it were, for Volume Three's ending.
Okay.
Let's just say he bit off more than he could chew.
Trevor says, my favorite part about him, small spoiler, when he said he'd continue to do what he does best, lie, cheat, steal, and survive, only to not do so hot on the survive part.
Okay, so I mentioned we already covered that Pyrrha died in the anime, which is something I wanted to avoid at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Roman gets the same deal. But
Gotcha.
well, the funny thing is, the way he dies is very similar to you know that movie Deep Blue Sea with Samuel L. Jackson and all that.
I think so.
So there's a scene in the movie where Stan goes on a rant about how they're going to survive, but then he just ends up getting cut by getting chomped on by a giant shark right in the middle of that speech.
Okay.
Pretty much what happens to Roman at the end of Volume 3.
So basically, pride cometh before the fall.
Yeah, it basically did him in the end.
Okay. So, next character.
Ah.
Neapolitan, obviously named after the ice cream.
And I found, interestingly, that's not her name.
Really?
Her real name is Trivia Vanille,
Okay.
which, if you can guess, is basically it's a vanilla ice cream.
Right. Which, real quick, hello to Tim's Talk. Thanks for joining. So, what's her story, and who's she based off of?
Well, I also forgot to mention that with Roman Torchwick, he was based on Lampwick from Pinocchio.
Really?
Or his real name, Romeo Candlestick. I couldn't pronounce it right.
Okay.
And
It's weird.
obviously,
It's weird that you say that. I see a lot of Honest John in him.
he's definitely not honest, but there's also another character he's based off of with that cane and that hairdo.
Mhm.
And that is the Malcolm McDowell character, Alex DeLarge from A Clockwork Orange.
Oh yeah, I definitely see that.
Yeah, the ginger hair, the cane, that's a dead giveaway.
Mhm. Okay.
And with Neo, obviously, you're basing it off of ice cream, the flavor ice cream, but
Mhm.
in later volumes, she's based off of the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, okay.
And she's the silent type. She never speaks once at all in the series. And honestly, she's scary.
Is she a good guy or bad guy?
She's Roman's henchman and his
Oh, okay.
And despite how she looks, she's actually 25 years old, so no worries there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And her ability is basically able to create physical illusions that shatter like glass.
Okay.
So, like Alice through the Looking Glass.
Okay.
And her umbrella is basically a parasol, a shield, and the handle can detach to make a knife.
Okay.
And you know how they say, watch out for the quiet ones?
I
That's
take it
why.
she's the example.
She is just sadistic. She is cold. She is just creepy.
And I take it she does it all with that smile.
And not a single word uttered.
Dude, wow.
And later in the volume, she actually does try to take revenge for Roman's death, and also see him wearing his bowler hat.
Okay.
And she blames Ruby for his death, which is not entirely true.
Does she ever okay, so question. Does she ever come into contact with like Salem and Cinder and join forces with them, or does she kind of stay her own entity?
She joins with the Cinder's group for a time being, just to see her get revenge on Ruby.
Okay.
But she later reforms in the current volume and just let's bygones be bygones, let's go with the past, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. So next character.
Mercury Black. Now, if Yang fights with her fists, Mercury here is the opposite. He fights with his feet.
Okay.
If it helps, he's basically like Hua Rang from Tekken.
Gotcha.
And the other thing is that he actually has prosthetic legs that basically enhance his kicks. And like Yang, he has weapons on his boots that have the same function as Yang's gauntlets.
So his shoes are guns, basically.
And they pack one hell of a kick.
I can imagine. Okay, you want to know something funny? Siri was picking up all of this on my phone, on my watch. Literally, she was giving me shoe recommendations from the internet because I said his shoes are his guns or something like that.
Well, I guess you got off on the wrong foot.
Yeah. All right. You know what? Enough of that.
And anyway, as far as how he gets involved, he's basically one of the members of Salem's Circle, which is what the team is called, and he's a unique one among the group because he had his semblance taken away by his father, and when he killed his father, he never got that semblance back.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And yes, Chris, insert the Illuminati theme.
the real one or the MCU one? Because the MCU one sucks.
The X-Files theme.
Oh, that one.
Yep.
I know. I was joking on that one, but uh, so yeah, with Mercury, he's a master thief. He's a master assassin, and yeah, like Yang, he specializes in kick attacks and is one of the best martial artists next to Yang and Pyrrha. And he's just he's one of those thrill seekers who enjoys doing bad.
Okay. And again, good guy or bad guy?
He's a villain. And fun fact, in the later volumes, like in volumes 4 through 8, he is voiced by the prolific Yuri Lowenthal.
What would I know him from?
You might know him as Sasuke Uchiha from Naruto, Ben 10, and currently
Okay.
Spider-Man.
In the Sony games?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
And as far as his inspiration goes, Mercury is, well, based on Mercury, the god of speed.
Okay.
And
And
if it was,
isn't it a part of the mythology, or is this just God of War where Mercury loses his legs?
I'm thinking he does lose his legs at some point in the series. We don't see it, but we do see that he already had his prosthetic legs when Cinder came to recruit him.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
All
he's a
right.
lead foot, basically.
Gotcha. Trevor says Yuri Lowenthal is Alucard from Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Makoto Yuki in the original Persona 3, Yosuke in Persona 4, and many, many more. Okay,
I
gotcha.
mean, if we were to list all of Yuri's roles here, we'd be here all night. So
Absolutely. All right, so we got 3 more characters to go through. Here's
and
Emerald.
this is my third favorite character, Ruby, Emerald Sustrai, which I'm hoping I'm saying that right. She's the master thief of Cinder's Circle. She's the new girl of the group, as it were, because basically grew up on the streets of Remnant and basically had to fight to survive, that kind of thing. And this might come as a surprise to you, but her inspiration is Aladdin,
Really?
and it's all because of her semblance hallucinations, which basically, as the name suggests, creates illusions for her opponent.
Okay.
And her weapon you saw there is known as Thieves' Respite, which is basically dual revolvers that can change into a comma or sickle
Yeah.
and act as a grapple.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, a minor spoiler here with Ruby, with Emerald in particular, is that when she goes through with some of Salem's and Cinder's plans as a whole, she underestimates the scale of how much destruction those plans can cause. And while she's not above killing people, it's just a matter of how many are killed.
Okay.
Because as Red Hood said in Injustice 2 dialogue, there's too far and then there's gone way too far.
Right.
And
Okay.
initially, Emerald, Mercury, and Cinder try to infiltrate Beacon Academy to get a better read on the area, basically espionage and all that.
Right.
And despite her friendly nature on the surface, beneath is just hiding a bitter a girl who's just angry with the world, just wants to get back at it for all the pain and misery that she's gone through.
Okay.
I mean, it's not as bad as Cinders per se, but growing up on the streets in Redmond can't exactly be ideal.
Gotcha. All right, and then the next character, Crow.
Crow Bronwyn, the uncle to Ruby and Yang, the brother-in-law to Taiyang and the sister to Raven.
Okay.
And as you can see from his sword, the Harbinger, it's basically a triple changer. Because you see the broadsword here, but it can also double as a scythe, which will be based most of the design on, but she incorporated more what she wanted for her weapon. But it can also double as a shotgun slash
Trevor, what are you talking about here? Drunk Ruby Trevor Belmont.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention for the first part of
Oh,
Ruby, he's a
this
drunk,
guy. Okay, gotcha.
and suffice it to say, Crow has he's had it pretty rough to say the least. Like I said, he was part of Team Stark along with Summer, Taiyang, and Raven. Except in this case, he was blessed with a semblance that's not exactly ideal. He essentially can cause bad luck.
Cause what?
Bad luck.
Oh, okay. So
So
bad luck for his opponents, bad luck for his allies.
yes and yes.
Oh, okay.
He basically emits something that causes the probability of anything to how things go. Like things could go bad if he's anywhere near for his opponent or for his friends and family, all that.
Okay. Virginia says, I hate how much Crow is my favorite character outside of John and Pura.
You're missing a H there, Virginia, but that's close enough.
So we'll go ahead and get into the last character since they're related. Raven.
Raven Bronwyn, the leader of the Bronwyn tribe and Yang's biological mother.
Oh.
You can definitely see her looks in that one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so again, here's Raven. Here is Ruby.
No relation, like no blood in there.
And then here's Yang. So again, Raven, Yang. I do see it.
Yeah, it's safe to say that Yang had a little bit more of a recessive gene when it came to Raven.
Okay.
And quickly, the inspirations for Raven and Crow were based on Odin's crows, hugging and even I think I forgot what their names were.
Trevor, help.
So yeah, they're based on Odin's crow. Was basically whereas Crow can basically bring bad luck. Raven doesn't exactly bring luck of any kind herself, but her ability is to basically create portals to whoever she's linked to on an emotional level.
Okay. So say her daughter. She could create a portal to her daughter.
Yep, and Taiyang and Crow, and as you can see from her sword, she basically studies Aido type fighting style, similar to another character, Adam Taurus.
Gotcha.
And Raven, I mean, I don't hate her personally, but she's just one of those characters that are the survival of the fittest mentality, the might is right method of thinking. Just she's a bandit through and through, and she'll do anything to just survive.
Okay. Trevor says Raven's a bad A, but she's both underused and needs some character development. And Raven and Crow are based off the crows of Odin, the All-Father of Norse mythology. So question then for you, Trevor. Why does Odin have crows? All right, so that is all of the characters. We went through a lot there.
We did leave out a couple. We did leave out one that I really did want to talk about.
Who's that?
Penny Polendina.
How do you spell that?
The last name?
All of it.
Penny space Polendina.
Got it. All right, let me bring that picture in real quick. And wait, that's not what I want. I want the image only. There we go. Okay, so
that's roughly Penny, like in the last volume, and originally minor spoiler, she used to be an android.
Oh, okay.
And she was the first friend that she was the first person that Ruby befriended outside of her team,
Gotcha.
both Ruby and
Okay.
Juniper. And lest you forget, she is combat ready.
Okay. So basically, her entire body being an android is a weapon.
That's part of it, yeah. But she also has a backpack that basically allows her to control an array of floating swords.
So, like Darth Treya.
Kind of, yeah. But she can also group the swords together in a circular fashion, and she can fire a massive laser.
Okay. Chris says crows are Odin's messengers. Thank you.
And as if the inspiration for Penny wasn't obvious enough, she's based on Pinocchio.
Okay. Because she eventually became a real girl.
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
let's just say that next to some of the characters in Ruby, she is pretty much gone through the ringer.
Okay.
Let's just say that by the end of Volume 3, she was beside herself.
In the same way that C-3PO was in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, but much worse.
Oh my. Okay. So the last thing I want to talk about with the characters, and this is something that Jet Sparks had mentioned earlier. And Jet Sparks, I saved this comment for now. Jet Sparks said over an hour ago at this point, good lord, he says these fan shippers pestered the creators for years until they just caved in and basically made it canon to the show. So is that indeed true? And if so, or if not, what's your take on that?
Well, the fan shipping names were actually used for some of the special moves that Team Ruby made up from the swap, which can be seen in the 8th episode of Volume 2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not the 8th episode, of the 6th or 7th episode, or no, the 4th one, sorry. Because the names of the attacks basically correlate with what they're going to use their abilities for. Like, for example, Bumblebee, which is Blake and Yang shipping, is that she uses the grapple function of her weapon. Yang holds on to the swinging end of it. It basically acts as a wrecking ball.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And you
So
got
like in Team Fortress 2, the medic can make the heavy weapons guy invulnerable.
yeah.
Okay.
Which you'll be happy to know if you're a fan of that guy. There is a character in here that does have a minigun.
Okay.
I'll leave that up to you to look up on your own because I don't want to take up much of your time with the characters.
I gotcha.
But her name is Coco Adele.
Coco Adele?
Yeah.
Basically,
what would happen if you gave a soldier or the Ruby treatment, like if you put Sonya Blade in Ruby.
I've got a picture for her right here. Since we got a there it is.
And yep, that's Coco.
Okay. So
she is the leader of Team Coffee.
Team Coffee.
Yeah. Coco
Okay.
Adele, Fox Alistair, Velvet Scarlatina, and I can't exactly say the full name because it's a bit lost on me. But we'll call him Yatsu.
Okay, fair enough. And we won't go into details with those. So, question: how many teams total are there? We know we got Team Ruby, we got Team Juniper, we got the retired team that Ruby's father was part of. How many teams are there?
I think there's a bit too many to count, but if I do come up with a number later on, like after the stream's over, I'll send you the list.
So basically dozens.
Yeah, and they basically are based off of color names or associations with color. And the
Okay.
way that works is that if you notice how Ruby is spelled, it takes the first letter of the teammates' names and then rearranges them in a way that sounds like a color.
Right. So, for example, Ruby, Weiss, Blake, and Yang spell Ruby.
Exactly.
Okay. So, Getting back to, though, the thing that JetSpark had said, is it indeed true that the creators caved to the fans and made Blake and Yang a couple?
I wouldn't say they caved in. I'd say they were trying to pepper it in slowly because there were signs that they would be a couple later on down the line. They just needed some personal growth.
Okay. And what did you think of the move that they did when they made that official? Was that because I know you mentioned that Blake and Sun were teased also to be a couple. So do you agree with them making Blake and Yang what they were?
Well, I can't exactly speak for the community in question regarding that shipping, but honestly, yeah, I don't want to say that I hate it personally. I personally support it because if it makes them happy and if it gets them through the hard times, the grimmer times, if you will,
Yeah.
then I'd say go for it. But I'm not exactly a huge fan of it.
Okay. And that is perfectly fine. We'll go ahead and move on from there to the next topic, and this is one that Virginia, while we were talking about the characters, asked me to include, and that's the video games. So are you knowledgeable about the video games too?
There have been very few Ruby video games that have been made per se. I do own one that on my Switch, Grim Eclipse, which is a hack and slash game where you play as Ruby and Juniper, and it can be a team thing, and you just go through this whole story that takes place, I think, between volumes 2 and 3,
Okay.
and basically it involves having to find this Doctor or Merlot guy who basically experiments on Grimm to make them more dangerous, more lethal, and just more monstrous. He's
Gotcha.
basic. He's basically a caricature of the character Dr. Moreau from the book, The Opposite of Dr. Moreau.
Okay. Real quick, by the way, Kobe, I sent the link to the StreamYard to Virginia to come in because I know that she's got a couple of the video games also on her Switch. I think she's got one, I think it's called Arrowfell or something. And I
Yeah,
wanted to see if I
yeah,
want to
I
see if she
saw,
would come in.
yeah, I saw some footage of that. It's basically like a side scroller game that takes inspiration from other games like Mario Bros, Shovel Knights, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I do know they introduced another team there, Team Briar, which is an interesting team on itself. Oh, and as Trent pointed out, they did cross over with Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. It was alongside Persona, Under Night in Birth, Arcane Heart, and Blitzsync.
Okay. So why specifically that game did they put them in?
Well, I think it's because since Ruby has shown combat at prowess both in the show and in Death Battle or other forms of media they've been in, it stands to reason that they did appear in Blaze Blue as playable characters because they saw potential in them. They wanted to market Ruby be like that.
Okay. And is Blaze Blue also made by Rooster Teeth?
No, I think it's like its own company. I
Gotcha.
think it was just more like a merger deal thing.
Okay. So, since I brought up Blaze Blue, that is going to bring us to the final points of the night, and that is the future of the series. So, part of the reason that you wanted to talk about this, I know we were talking about this a little bit in the beginning of these plans, is the fact that Rooster Teeth, of course, either is about to or has just completely shut down. And Rooster Teeth was who animated the Death Battle channel and made this show. So, with Rooster Teeth now dead, where does that leave Ruby?
Well, honestly, I have high hopes that another company or another person who worked with Ruby can pick up where Monty Oom's story left off. And recent rumors have circulated that one of the animators of Ruby, Dylan Goo,
Mhm.
who did the animations for Volume 3, is interested in taking up the rights of Ruby. And if you've seen his content, he's definitely fitting to pick up the pace.
So you think if he did, he would respect it?
Since he did phenomenal work with Volume 3, I have no doubt in my mind that Dylan Gu would take Ruby in a brighter direction, and he would just. It's just hard to put to words because I think he'd do a great job.
Okay. Well, for those that are definitely fans of Ruby, let's hope that either he or someone else comes along and is able to continue the story of Ruby in a way that is, of course, respectful to what came before it. Because, I mean, how many franchises have we seen do continuations that are disrespectful to what came before it? I mean, Star Wars, Indiana Jones,
Oh yeah.
um, Last of Us 2, different like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League to the
Do
Arkhamverse.
not bring that game up. Just
Sorry,
don't.
bud. But yeah, countless examples of continuations that just disrespect what came before it.
It's also funny that you mentioned it's funny that you mentioned the DC game is because in recent years Ruby has crossed over with the Justice League in two animated films, which I feel could be a good indication that they might be in good hands, depending on who takes the rights. Because
Okay,
which ironically is based on a comic series that happened while Ruby was being animated, where they crossed over with DC Comics.
gotcha. Yeah, DC seems to be crossing over with everyone these days. Right now, they're dealing with the MonsterVerse.
Oh boy. Oh sure, they can cross over with the MonsterVerse, but they can't cross over with Marvel.
That's comics for you.
I mean, they did it before in the '80s, I think, and they did that whole amalgam comic series. But other than
Yeah,
that, no crossovers.
I'm sure. All right. Well, that is pretty much all that I have to ask about Ruby. Is there anything, Kobe, that you have that we didn't talk about or that we forgot to mention?
Well, I think I got most of the general consensus down, but for those who are interested in catching up with Ruby, I don't want to go into spoilers story wise, but as far as the volumes go, if it's all right with Paul, I'd like to sum all 9 volumes up in ways that are kind of fitting and set you up for what you might experience.
Okay. Real quick before you do, where can you find Ruby if you want to watch it?
Well, if you want to watch Ruby, you might want to check basically the basic streaming sites like Crunchyroll, or see if you can find it on DVD and Blu-ray, or it's still on Rooster Teeth while it's still up till it closes down. So
Hmm.
I recommend catching all the episodes before that site's either gone or basically whatever.
Okay.
So going along with the summarizing of each volume, like with volume one, it's basically the introduction to the series and basically gets you into the world of Ruby. Which, by the way, I will say that before Ruby was initially released, they released trailers named after their colors, red, white, black, and yellow, which are still up on YouTube, which I'd recommend watching those first to get a good taste of what Ruby is as a whole, aesthetic wise, and all that. Uh,
Right.
with Volume 2, they expanded on that little bit and introduced more characters, more lore, that kind of thing. And
Hmm.
also starts the plot of the antagonists up well. Like it sets the antagonists up in a way that'll catch us off guard.
Okay.
Now, Volume 3 started with a slightly different thing going on because with the first 2 volumes, the frame rate was at least 60 frames per second, which is basically how we perceive movement. But with
Right.
Volume 3 and then the following volumes, the frame rate got slower and not as fast paced, which I found a little interesting. Volume 3 is just where things appear to go well, but then near the end, things just hit the fan.
Gotcha. Okay.
Volume 4 not only introduces a different animation engine where they redesigned the characters, not drastically like in terms of attire, but they basically changed the design of the character. think there isn't something called the Maya engine, which is what it's
Mhm.
called, I think.
Okay.
And Volume 4 basically is the recovery volume, which allows us to recuperate and basically get our bearings with what happened in Volume 3's conclusion.
Okay.
Volume 5 is basically the team getting, well, for Volume 3, the team basically split up for a bit and spread out throughout all of Remnants. Volume 4 was the recovery, and Volume 5 is them trying to get back together.
Okay. Real quick, I just pulled up the Rooster Teeth site here. So here it is. If you want to watch it, obviously this is going to come down, but I'm going to put it in the chat if you guys want to watch. Why is volume 4 why is volumes 3, 4 and 5 split into two parts?
I'm guessing for Volumes 3, I guess the first few episodes are basically the more lighthearted ones that focus on a tournament of some sorts,
Mhm.
well, Part 2 focuses on things really going bad, things are going grim, if you'll pardon the expression.
Yeah.
And I think with I can't exactly explain why for Volume 4, because I don't know if it's just me, but I think it's just the shortest volume of the series. But Volume 5 is basically the team getting back together for Part 1, and then Part 2, they convene to get one of the relics that I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And for Volume 6, it's basically where they realize who their main enemy is, who the real baddie is, and they try to get to Atlas is to recruit more help. And I won't mind spoiling that in Volume 6, Adam finally gets killed.
Gotcha. Okay.
And for Volume 7, it's basically them getting into Atlas and getting a much needed upgrade, both in weapons and, for lack of a better word, design, because the Volume 7 designs for Team RWBY vary from either looking really good or just what in God's name were they thinking?
So it's a downgrade.
For design wise, for some of them, yes.
Okay.
Particularly with Weiss and Blake.
Oh, gotcha.
And with Volume 7's conclusion, things start to get a little bit more darker. Things are starting to get a little bit more serious, which I think the total shift after Volume 3 mirrors how the animators felt when Monty Boom passed away.
Okay.
Which I
So another thing, and this is something Trevor has said, that he ended up stopping watching Ruby because all of the good characters started getting killed left and right. Is about when does that happen?
the good characters usually get killed off right near a volume's conclusion, which we saw with Pyrrha, we saw with Adam, which I really wish I could say without vomiting. And with Volume 7, we do end up with another major character death with one of the huntsmen that are in Atlas, who are basically the Atlas versions of Ruby,
Okay.
which don't exactly follow the standard rules of what a team is in terms of number wise, because with the teams in Ruby, it follows a simple rule of 4.
Mm-hmm.
The Synth have the rule of 2, the Comedies have the rule of 3, and Ruby has the rule of 4.
Gotcha.
And with Volume 8, things, I don't want to say get worse, but let's just say they don't improve either. Because there's a lot of character
Gotcha.
development, a lot of character growth, and just basically everything just goes downhill there.
Okay.
And with the current volume, Volume 9, I think the best way to sum it up is things are about to go down the rabbit hole.
Gotcha.
That's not
Okay.
just a hyperbole, by the way. They literally end up in the remnant version of Wonderland.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna have to check this out.
I mean,
Virginia, we're watching this together.
and I want to say that even though Ruby's total shifts kind of threw me off a bit, it did not take away my enjoyment of the series because growing up with three older sisters, I basically was uh, growing up with strong women in my life, and I
Of
respect
course.
the hell out of it, if to say the least. And it's just a series that I like because it can be colorful, it can be serious, and
Okay.
it's just tons of fun. I just like to say, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the darker elements that it incorporates later on, but it doesn't take my enjoyment away from it.
Okay. And yeah,
But
there's nothing wrong with things going dark as long as it's not overly dark.
yeah, looking at you, Zack Snyder.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we're gonna go ahead and close it down here, bud. This is probably the longest single. Okay, real quick. Virginia says, "Don't make that comment unless you mean it. Much like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, it's borderline an obsession when I get started." We'll talk about this later, okay? Trevor, by the way, says to you, Kobe, you've done amazingly. Paul and Kobe, imagine I'm destroying your studio with my train right now. Gotta go off the rails, right? I think I should have a. Okay, this is the best that I could do of a clip of something getting destroyed, and this is usually what I play when someone has a birthday. Whoops.
So basically, you borrowed a clip from Star Trek.
Yes.
If I might add an idea for a clip to use, which I think would be appropriate, find one of a Wile E. Coyote fail.
I will do my best.
I don't care if it's the fall or the swash or whatever, just something that just screams comeuppance or karma.
Okay. I mean, I kind of have this one for if I have to kick someone out.
All right, youngster, out you go.
Don't come back! Ever!
What's up, Doc Holliday?
Exactly. All right. Well, anyways, we're going to go ahead and shut this one down. And of course, Virginia says, proud of you, Kobe. And dude, for real, you helped make this, in my opinion, the best episode of Beginner Series so far.
I'm glad I could be of help.
Yes. So this has been definitely the longest stream of Beginner Series, at least that took one stream, because Jeff took 5 to talk about FNAF, which is fine. That's how he wanted to do it. But thank you, Kobe, for coming on here and talking RWBY with me. Thank you for definitely getting me interested into it. I hope you were able to do that for anyone else that is watching this. And dude, don't be a stranger around here, man. Anytime you want to talk about another thing for Beginner Series, or if you feel comfortable enough to join us on our open panels, or heck, anytime me and the other guys in TDK are in a gaming stream, come on in here with us if you want to.
Well, I would have done it for the gaming stream, but unfortunately, with the different time zones between Virginia and Wyoming, the time lag is just annoying.
I understand. By the way, dude, I've been out to Wyoming. It's beautiful country you got out there.
You're right, it is.
Mm-hmm. I want to retire out there at some point. But
I would recommend Cody, Wyoming. It's just I mean, I may work at the Walmart there, but I wouldn't recommend staying there.
That's where I've been. Cody, Wyoming was beautiful.
It looks like that, yes. Which I will not elaborate further on that because I don't want to sound like a cynical man here.
I'll ask you about it after the stream's over. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and end it now. So thank you, of course, to Kobe for being here. Thank you, of course, to everyone in TDK in the chat for coming on here and showing support for Kobe. Like you said, dude, this was definitely something out of your comfort zone. I'm glad that I was the person that you were willing to trust to come on here and have this experience with. And with that, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and do the normal outro of thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're on Facebook and you like fan-made Death Battle content, go check out Death Battle Plus Plus, because Kobe here, his main specialty on that page is a little something called Death Battle Aftermath, where he and another person, I've helped with a few of these, will go on and basically write an aftermath episode of Death Battle between the two different contestants and talk about what happened and why things happened in the fight. And I believe you do both official death battles and fan-made ones, right?
Yep, I do the Death Battle Plus Plus fights and the official fights. And if you want me to talk about this on the beginner series for some other time, I'd be happy to do that as well, because I already did the written part of it, like on the page, which I recommend watching that one. It's the 200th, I think.
Mm-hmm. Which is the one that I believe I specifically interviewed with you, right?
Yeah, it was basically I guess you could say it was a script for the Fandomology covering Aftermath.
Right. By the way, dude, have you checked the security on the Aftermath studio lately?
I'm thinking of adding a few extra measures.
I'm asking for a friend.
Would this friend happen to hate whoopers and is a huge Ozzy Osbourne nut?
Actually, no. But anyways, all right, that's enough inside baseball there. We're going to go ahead and shut this down. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will talk to you guys later. And remember, the Force is family.